It's Monday, October 24th, 2022. Um, I am just in a quiet reflection of what I'm being shown this morning on See the BS or CBS. Again, handle of my hand at the moment is the only one that I've ever known here. One of the, in my search daily for God, family, and country, and signs of it, visitors showed up with a book of words, which are very crucially important words, especially since it came via a stranger in the field of my natural path. And I've seen them several times in the area, so it's not a one-time thing. So that's important. I look to the local community that I have access to. I looked for specific Pentecost word. There's a pentagon somewhere, Pentecost, and how they're counting their calendar, if that's what they go off of in a educated guess, or I don't know how it works, but the 20th Sunday after Pentecost. So I went again October 23rd to try to keep myself in some calendar of Sundays for Sunday school as opposed to the public version. And I don't even know if that has a something any longer. I noticed October 22nd, Nancy Pelosi was on something that I don't normally watch. It's called Face the Nation. And she reminds me of a family, one of Lewis's family members. So I look to her for words of wisdom on this, whichever, kind of like a guiding light, I suppose, of what is she, because she's in an important place in the world that I have no access to, and I've learned nothing. They've taught me nothing about it. So she's mentioning owning the ground initiative. Now that ties into something that I'm having a problem with unprotected airspace, being the stereo field surrounding my whatever. It's part of the, where did the telephone company go, and why does it now read mob? It reads mobile, but it's mobile. Why mob? What happened to the local telephone, regional carrier, long distance carrier, and then if you have contacts overseas, then it becomes international carrier, and they're very specifically segregated on a billing method for a reason. Why is it not? Why does it now just a mob mentality of just one mob? That seems really dangerous at national security. Just saying. I've had some things happen in the local area that ties into my concern on the breaking up of the monopoly of keeping national security segregated in a local, regional, long distance carrier to a international carrier. If you know somebody overseas, which I don't, that I don't interact with regularly. But now it's by mobile, which frightens me, because the mob and this social anarchy is a really frightening alternative or concept. If I sit philosophically and quietly and I look to humans that have visited me in this field and whatever their words of wisdom, all different kinds of words of wisdom. Some were in real estate, some were in mortgage, some were in banking, some were in the security field. I think I've met a sports player before. Field I really don't know, so it was really difficult to connect, and I don't know even how to relate. I mean, I know so little about sports and how to appreciate you in your field that you've chosen. Um, so, but it's like that whenever I meet strangers. Like, I really have so little, I have such a novice understanding of how humans work in their individualness, in their groups, in their totality. They're all like a mystery to me. Um, so Nancy Pelosi was mentioning this owning the ground initiative, which I thought was interesting to separate out the problem I have currently, with no one to ask about where did my safety and security go in protected airspace just around my person. Um, then on this CBS this morning, well, actually, going back to the feeling unprotected, which was a piece, by the way, that Billy Porter brought out this morning, um, on the episode 211, which came out 10/24 Monday, um, being October 24th, which is the 20th Sunday after Pentecost plus one day. So I'm thinking, on E2010, which was October 21st, 2022, they show this person, that has a sports artifact that has an American comparative name to it, which I'm not going to say. And then it has a European name, which I'm not going to say. But what I noticed more as like an analyst of the actual visual reference display with a very specific other countryman who's currently in a war with another country elsewhere, on his shelf, I noticed the shape and size of this one type of ball, for which here they call it a sport, which I know nothing about. I mean, again, whatever, and whatever, but I know enough, let's just put it that way. And then I'm looking at the design on the ball, and it does not look like anything I've ever seen on a ball in America, North America to be specific. Then next to that ball, and the design on that ball does not look like the design allowed on the field at League, League, just in case Legion is important in this conversation for legislation, all having the LEG in the first prefix for prefect of the word, that was built categorically for a reason in tempo, or volte in there's history before I got here. I don't know what it was. Um, so I'm looking at that, and then they have next to it a religi artifact next to this ball that has this specific design on it, that I have words for the actual ball itself in my version, and then the design I've seen in Shark Nation in my local Long Island area, which I'm not giving word to because I know what the word is, how it's spelled, just because this shelf display frightens me in this one mention. And then that happened on October 21st. Now, this morning on October 24th, they E211 episode, they come up with a dirty bomb explanation about a possibility between these two outside forces that are having a war about something else, and looks really, really frightening. And then they explain what a dirty bomb is, and that it would be really hard to detect sometime in the future. And I'm thinking to myself, radiological decay. Why can't they turn the gas in the streets off? Is it something different that does not have an easy switch? Is it just something that is outside of my scope of reality? That's a possibility that I don't have access to that information. But my health is deteriorating and I can't seem to figure out why. So that was an interesting explanation of it might not be going on currently, but it might have happened before I arrived, in possibilities. Then they mentioned this new Taylor Swift, who, again, there was that Polaroid from the 1980s. Looks like one of her album covers. I see the tie-in. So I'm looking to what she's saying this morning, and it's like if there was a younger version of yourself telling the older version of yourself something, she writes on this chalkboard and then sits down in a dress that looks very 1960s. So is that like the predescendant, antecedent, antiquated kind of a thing, relation? I don't know. But it says everyone will betray you. Then they go to Kindness 101 for grit, GRIT, with Einstein and sandpaper. I'm assuming that's a conversation in someone's house. On the mention, it says Mason, which is indicative of stonework and building. And then, of course, there's Maison, which for house purposes. Dans la maison, I know. So there's that. And then this morning when I went up to school to drop my son off, there was a worker speaking to both the assistant principal and the security guard, and he had on some kind of NY something on his hat, and it was a baseball cap like this, just plain blue with this white stitching on it, and he was openly discussing something about ACS and whatever else. I don't know if it was a child that was located in the building, not quite sure. But it was, they mentioned these letters. So I'm thinking to myself, back to a time where on the television there's a TV program, I don't know which, I don't know if it's that NCIS, which is supposed to be like the naval crimes, and I don't know what the other letters stand for, or if it's the FBI show, or if it could be SVU, which is Special Victims Unit in the NYPD for Law and Order. They have a show up there about that. But they showed the possibility exists that on the television itself, for criminal and like Department of Justice level purposes, or so they intimated on this TV show, can turn the television into a monitoring station from technology elsewhere. So they almost use it like I think they call it tunneling service, where, I mean, I don't, again, technology I use to a minimum, but if they're on technically a computer and they have the IP address of whatever service provider the television is using, and they have some kind of federal warrant or whatever, I don't even know how that system works, but I've heard these words on TV, kind of, sort of, but not really. In the field, I wouldn't know who to ask to figure out in order if I had a suspicion of something. I have no idea how any of that works. But the television could technically be used so they can view you in your home setting if, for, let's say, terroristic purposes, they think that you might be up to something. Really, where I see it working most is if there is a child in danger in the house of a parent who might be inappropriately locking them in a room and touching them. That's my main concern about other whatevers. Being that I didn't invite 1975 in, and if that tunneling service was used during my divorce from 1976 problem that I had, they would see that the children were safe and secure while watching Disney, an Animal Planet, learning like good things about the nature world and whatnot when they were in my care, with me at home with them, in a singular format. Where it becomes a problem is with a later version of the whatever. Also, it would come into concern when I was going to the doctor and I got diagnosed with anemia, and the doctor wasn't giving me instructions or answers or anything at all to help correct the extreme malaise. And then when I woke up with, and I had to bandage my arms, I mean, this is internal house abuse of my person, not knowing where or why it's happening, and trying to reach out to the medical community, but not knowing, and just getting blocked, and almost like this willful neglect of the medical staff from actually getting me to a healthy position. Again, all of these things went on, and the monitoring of the television from a station elsewhere for that purpose. Now, if it was used for some nefarious purpose, like whatever, with, I don't know, buying information and data mining off of the children in order to cause further harm or block future based on how they were being raised in the house, that causes concerns and alarms for me. But they've shown on the television that, like, there are certain levels of crime fighting that are allowed with certain paperwork that they file in order to look through the television and look at as like a monitoring station to make sure the safety and the health and welfare. I've also seen it used during a robbery. They had on the nightly news that it was actually used. There was a television in the room, on the wall, and there was a person who climbed through a window, and they used the footage, I guess, from the TV IP address, whatever, in order to catch an image of the person climbing through the window and stealing from that house. In that sense, again, I can see it. But now, if I went to go speak to someone like Linda or Lou, they'd say that that's absolutely crazy. Except Linda watches all of these TV shows and knows theoretically it's possible. They've already put it out there that it has been used in these theoretical TV shows and on the real news. So it is possible, and they are using it. But then for her and her daily whatevers, again, is it a possibility that somebody is on the other end of the camera or the TV? It sounds like something they might use in a mental case to harm someone by reputation and by other things, which opens another window of really frightening things depending on who the individual is, in using the justice system in some of the most frightful and harmful ways to hurt perfectly innocent people for other purposes that they're trying to justify in protecting, I don't know what, in self-defense of something that I don't know what it might be. So there's that. As far as sandpaper and Einstein and the relative theory of whatever this is being used for. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to open up with the Owning the Ground initiative, since that's where the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, says they're working on in this voting whatever. Okay, so it was episode E43. So I'm on 43rd Avenue. I don't know if she's talking about street or she's talking avenue. Again, I grew up Glenway. I don't know how to make any, I don't really think I need any more words than that.
By turnout, but you've heard our CBS estimates have the Republicans taking the House with 224 seats. How do you shift the momentum?
Well, let's just say, first and foremost, good morning. It's Sunday morning, 15 days or so before the election.
So this is the 20th Sunday after Pentecost, just so we're on the correct calendar with a handle on this at the moment for visual accuracy, I suppose.
People are already voting. We're very pleased with our early vote for our Owning the Ground initiative. It's interesting to me because for a year and a half, the media has been saying, "Oh, it's gone. President's party always loses in the off year," and now we're down to the stretch, and we're down.
Now, again, she looks like to me a DeFlippo. She just does. I do not know that conversation where I am in the series and set of rooms and with the limited human interactions that I have access to daily in this section, in this fourth decade of my life. Those words and that conversation don't even come up.
We're down to very close races, and we feel very confident. I've been in.
And again, sounds like she represents a party. And I know that they were off to the races before I even was born. I get that.
In over 20 states since Congress adjourned in the last month or so. And I see very clearly that the ownership of the ground is with us. It's about getting out the vote. Everything else is a conversation compared to that. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, you have to have inspiration. You can't run on empty. And the fact is that when I hear people talk about inflation, as I heard him there, we have to change that subject. Inflation is a global phenomenon. Yes. The EU, the European Union, the UK, the British have higher inflation rate than we do here. The fight is not about inflation, it's about the cost of living. And if you look at what we have done to bring down the cost of prescription drugs, to bring down the cost of energy and the rest in our legislation, you will see that that has been opposed every step of the way by the Republicans, and they have no plan for lowering the cost of living or helping with inflation.
Absolutely. Inflation is a global problem, and it's hitting a lot of countries very hard. But there is also that question of fiscal spending. Congressman Jim Clyburn, who serves in leadership alongside you, said the following earlier this week.
All of us are concerned about these rising costs, and all of us knew this would be the case when we put in place this recovery program. Anytime you put more money into the economy, prices tend to rise.
Did you also realize at that time that the congressional spending would add to inflation? Did you see that risk then?
Well, first of all, government spending does. We had a pandemic, and that brought down unemployment from 7% to 3.5%.
Again, I'm not getting into party details because I have no way of verifying it. And when they talk, I get there is a following to this set of words in some pattern. I'm not following. I hear it. I'm looking, but it's not adding up to a summation and a conclusion in polymathematics that makes any let's put it this way. There was a carrot on a sun deck, and there's people in space I don't know exist. And then there was a visit. And then I don't know what happened after. I was really happy with who visited. And I don't know why there's a movie about Godfather and a horse's head chopped off in a bed. And then there's something about fish. I don't know. I never saw the movie. But there's a cult following. Cult is a baby horse. There's some real serious stuff going on, tied into movies, predecessors, antiquated, the unbeknownst. This move from that was about the mafia, and now we're at angry mob mentality. And I don't know where my service carrier segregation between local, regional, long distance, and then some international carrier standards went or are any longer. And it's really frightening because there's some real serious stuff in the field that's going on. Now, Friday, the 21st of October, 2022, they put on E210 on CBS. This is the analytic I was looking at with who's representing the Ukrainians for this one image, and then his shelf that has a sports and a religious reference. But it is a completely different league by the look of the symbols that he is portraying on his shelf from anything that I have here. I've seen one symbol used in this area, and they're using it far away. I have a word for it. I'm not going to say it. Then there's a ball that I see that they have in this area, but with different markings. And then I have seen the mark that's on this ball in the field, but not on a ball. They have it for some other, I don't know, area surveillance purpose. I'm not sure. I don't know what the company does, but I have a name for whatever the company is that bears that mark in the Long Island area. But again, are these claims, stakes? I don't know.
My personal opinion, he's unhealthy.
Vitaly Klitschko is the mayor of Kyiv, a former world heavyweight champion and a symbol of Ukraine's resistance. He told us his country urgently needs better air defense systems.
You've been asking the West.
Now, so he's part of something called a resistance. This is interesting because here I have a word for that on his arm, which looks very church, I suppose, or religious, I'm not sure. But this soccer ball, they don't sell that kind of ball here in North America. Then I see this. Again, there's crossover, but or like a segue, but it's not exact. And I believe the shape, I've seen that particular shape of that particular thing that I have a word for, but I've also seen it shaped slightly different in this area. So all of these like movements and migrations and shifts frighten me when this morning I go on and then they explain what a dirty bomb is, and not necessarily in the context of if it's being used right now, but in was it ever used in an area before you arrived? How would you know? Kind of a thing. Now, this morning here, they have on E11, episode E11, which is episode 11, and it's 1024. They have on this speaker called Billy Porter and his Unprotected, a memoir about his career. I haven't followed this person. I don't even know this person. They have him listed as a singer, an actor, and fashion icon on new memoir, new song in his career. And this is the man's face, and this is his thing. So, and he's holding awards that I don't even know what these are. Again, I'm not in that level of whatever they're doing around here. But what he says is so key about just being like I'll let him say it in his own words. I think that he does a fabulous job this morning.
Unprotected. Now he says the art's saved and the book is out today on paperback tomorrow, actually. We have it today.
Yes.
Billy Porter joins us right now. How you doing, Billy?
I'm fantastic. I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
Yeah,
big question was, what's Billy gonna wear?
What's he gonna wear? And he does
Don't
not disappoint, right?
Head to toe, Tom Brown, darling.
All right, so you are an incredibly open person.
Yes.
At least you have become that. You evolved into that. But it's different, though, when you're writing a book. You want to be open and as transparent as you are in this one. What was it like revealing yourself to the world in this way?
It was the only choice for me that I had. Somebody called and said I should write a book, and I thought, but I said, if I am going to do one, I'm going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Why do you title it Unprotected?
Because unprotected has a connotation to it that I think expands beyond just me.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly in this time that we're in, in the world,
right,
all of us are unprotected.
Yeah.
So, but by the things and the people and the institutions that we think are supposed to protect us, they're not doing that.
Mm.
And so I think, it's a way to sort of just hone in.
I think that is so key and a segue into this other conversation that they had. That's towards the end of, it says the art of Billy Porter. That's the end of the conversation for this morning. I'm going to go back to where they started in the beginning on something that I hadn't heard of, but it became a thought, I suppose, a divine inspiration the other day of a moment of clarity for which I was concerned as searching for answers for my health with why would it suddenly be deteriorating? Why I have this vascular supply that the doctors are not talking about. It's really concerning to me. And I'm just not getting the answers from them. And I'm trying to be my own health detective, but it's fruitless at this point because it's just this time lag when time is so significant and important. And somebody put on my Facebook the other day, cancer.org. And I'm like, now is that what am I supposed to do with that website? And what do you mean by that? Because I don't even know you. All right, this is where the conversation, I cut out some of the conversation because I hear them talking and I'm just like, I don't know any of these people. I don't know if anything that they're saying is even slightly relatable. I don't know if they've got their countries right, if they've got their situation correct, in the conversation of how do you know things. I just don't. So but they come up this morning with dirty bomb allegations. And then there's a NATO thing over here. And I'm just like, huh.
Lloyd Austin that Ukraine could be preparing a so-called dirty bomb. A dirty bomb has never been used before, is not a nuclear explosion, and would be far less harmful. But by using conventional explosives to spread radioactive material, it's an effective weapon of terror and could contaminate an area for years. In a joint statement, the US, the UK, and France rejected Russia's transparently false allegations, saying the world would see through any attempt to use it as a pretext for escalation.
For me, it's I don't know what's coming through the grate in the street that I've documented several times. I've called the emergency management service, the FDNY. They came out with their machines. I don't know what they test for. I don't know what they're being told they're testing for. I don't know how their logistics works. I don't know their safeties and protocols. I don't know how they warn the public, if they warn the public, if they're just told to let the public die on its own, there's no integration in explaining what the machines are testing for and what in like a public service announcement so they can receive funds for their department. Why is the public not knowing what it is that they're testing for? Why is it so secret? I don't know. But it is frightening. These are frightening questions. And then they put up here the Taylor Swift piece. So here it says T Swift smashes Spotify records. I don't really know what that means, but...
No, not really. It's already breaking records. Within 24 hours, the singer's 10th studio album smashed Spotify's record for most streamed album in a single day.
She beat out Bad Bunny and Drake. That's all I know. And it says Midnights. Again, I don't know if that goes back to Midland in the MID. Je ne sais pas, non so. I don't know.
Swift also beat Bad Bunny and Drake to become the most streamed artist in a single day in Spotify history. Wow. Don't know the exact numbers yet, but it's got to be more than 183 million because that was Bad Bunny's record. Then there was this.
I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror. It must be exhausting.
And it says the anti-hero in Republic Records. Now, what's interesting is they go between this look of everyone will betray you, and then it looks like she's sitting down, and almost like I would imagine what it must look like if my TV was used as a mirror unit with me sitting in this chair with my notebook and my pen in the morning, trying to figure out what the public service announcement is alerting in some intelligent design by I don't know what or whom, but trying to portray or tell a story of what of the humans need to know, kind of a thing.
What a great video. So we dropped this video. She did it on Friday. It's the song Anti-Hero. It's already racked up 26 million views on YouTube.
Now, it also theoretically goes back to if they're already seated at the table, if they already planned other seats at the table, they already got a seat at the table, how is this ever going to work for your one position from the 1960s baby boomers crew into the grandchildren? Especially with Taylor Swift crawling through the door, like almost like in Alice in Wonderland, like twice the size of everybody seated at the table already.
Too, as if we needed another reason to call her a musical mastermind.
The lyrics are great.
Lyrics are great. Yeah, mastermind, a little T Swift joke here. All right, let's end here with a Halloween costume in New York City.
Okay.
And it's this mastermind again. I don't really. So there's that. And then it goes to the Kindness 101 with Einstein and the sandpaper and the grit about this girl on a football team, in actuality, not whatever, in a parable, paradox. And they were saying like she shouldn't join, but they just kept knocking her down and she just kept getting back up and playing through. So I'll just make that reference as the ending or closing piece on this. And there was one other thing about President Trump this morning, different party than Nancy Pelosi, I believe. He had some audio tapes that were recorded. He had some phone conversations with some other man, and they were talking about it. I'm not referencing it necessarily, except paraphrasing it, because I'm not really following the storyline. I don't really get it. It's not being presented in a way that really hits home or makes sense. If they're pitching something, I'm trying to catch on, but I'm like, it's not on my track. It seems like a sidewinder for something else. I'm not real clear.
Character and the people who've mastered those qualities, and don't quit on us yet, because today's lesson is all about grit. Steve and his kids are going to introduce us to someone who proves you don't have to be the biggest guy on the team to have the biggest impact as long as you've got grit.
Good morning. I'm here with my daughter, Meryl, and today's lesson is going to be rough.
That's right, because today's class is about grit.
For a definition, let's go over to your brother Emmett now at the dictionary desk. Good morning, Emmett.
Good morning. Grit is kind of like a combination of perseverance and passion. It's to have an unstoppable spirit for the long haul.
Good. Now, Meryl, in front of you, I have placed a picture of Einstein and a block of wood. Will you please sand the block of wood with the picture of Einstein? How's it going?
Not good.
Okay, now try this piece of sandpaper. Any better?
Lots.
Point is, it doesn't matter how smart you are. You're not going to achieve your goals if you don't have grit. That little bit of stubbornness to grind down whatever blocks your way. I have met a lot of people who possess this attribute, but none more impressive than the person you're about to meet. It's a classic from our archives about one of the most important keys to success, grit.
The Brandywine Bulldogs in Wilmington, Delaware have one of the most unlikely football players in America today. And not just because this guy is so little, but because this guy is a girl.
I knew that I wanted.
I don't know. It has a 2017. Is that the Pearl of Wisdom? Sent out a crew to do the story so it could be used by the producers in protecting whatever and whatever, if and when so they choose. I don't know. It just happens to be on my board this morning.
I wanted to play football, and I knew that I wanted to start on varsity, and nothing stood in the way from it.
At 4'8", senior Felicia Perez is one of the shortest kids in her school. And she's not a kicker like many girls who play high school ball. No, Coach Isaiah Mays says Felicia came to him with a different position in mind.
A girl could technically play anything, but most of them don't say they want to play linebacker right away.
That's right, linebacker.
And, you know, it's a physical position. You get hit every play, and she's gotten rocked a couple times when she gets right back up.
Felicia says it's everything she ever dreamed. For as long as she can remember, she's wanted to play football. But it took a while to convince her parents.
I kind of kept pushing for it. I was like, Mom, Dad, I really want to play. And they were like, okay, well, let's go sign you up.
They thought you were bluffing, that you really didn't want to.
Yeah, they thought I was bluffing.
So you called their bluff.
I did. I think I still do.
And it wasn't just her parents who were skeptical. When she went to sign up, Felicia was directed at first to the cheerleading table. It was the beginning of a lot of false assumptions and some bullying.
Came to weight training and everybody started laughing.
It was just like, you shouldn't be playing football. And then, she hit me hard, and I was like, all right, maybe she should be playing football.
And that was the end of that.
That's not a girl playing, that's a football player.
They say no one dare laugh now.
You gotta protect yours. She's family to us, so.
That means standing up for Felicia when the other teams target her. And by all accounts, they do target her. She's had more than a handful of broken fingers, and they try to bruise her ego, too, with insults.
So why not just take the easy way out?
We never take the easy way out.
Play? But you would have avoided all that pain.
You're right, I would have, but would I be here today? No.
Nor would she be here. Felicia Perez joins us now. Hello, Felicia.
Morning, Steve.
What did you do after high school?
I decided I was going to join the Marine Corps for the next 4 years.
How'd you pick the Marines? I think I know the answer, but...
I didn't want the easy way out. I never do. That's called cheating yourself, and we never do that.
What I don't understand is why is it that they all seem to be able to find this path, and this path wasn't even offered to me. Now, again, where I came from, boys had their sports teams, girls had their sports teams, and you didn't ask to join the boys' team. I get that. But there was also an expectation that the boys on the boys' team would pick a wife, and I thought I had someone pick me in whatever kind of visitor meeting that was. And then it just never effectuated or came to fruition, and I have no idea why. I have no idea where they disappeared or how they fell off the face of my earth. When at one point, he was physically in front of me and I in front of him, and there was an ability to touch, like a you're real kind of a thing. So I know that he exists. This isn't about like what reality does he exist in. I have no idea. We exist. I exist. He exists. What is preventing us from existing together is where I'm still unclear.
For those of us who aren't as gritty as you, do you have any suggestions for ramping up our game?
If you don't have it, you have to find it. Everyone has it. It's just a matter of, are you going to allow yourself to just do the bare minimum? Or are you going to allow yourself to do what you don't think you can do and achieve the unbelievable?
Wow. You do any motivational speaking?
I do not.
Now you do.
Now you do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your words and your wisdom and your grit.
Thank you.
Good lesson. And proof you don't have to be a smooth Einstein as long as you've got grit. Thanks for watching.
So, again, it's also hard to achieve anything when your health is being bombarded daily. And I mean, there are some days where it's like you just can't even get back up, and it is taking a toll as far as tax collector and taxation without representation on my personal health. It's affected a lot of things in the field for which there's no compensation. Where's the compensation? It seems like everybody in this society over here puts on paper all these reasons to go after other people and sue them and get large monetary compensations. Where's mine? How does that even work? It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.